Hello, welcome to Talking Drum. Today we're at the Deershed Festival in North Yorkshire. Brilliant festival, loads of drummers, loads of bands. Not been that interested in the bands because I've been off doing other stuff, but on my tour around the festival filming for another show, I did get to see a drum kit in a box. I wouldn't strictly say it's a drum kit in a box, I'd say the box is the drum kit. Yeah, it's a cajon. Tell us about cajons and what they are.
A cajon's an ancient Peruvian drum. The original cajon was nothing more than a box, started with fish crates, cotton boxes. But the modern cajon is a mixture of the Peruvian cajon and the Spanish flamenco draw. And from that, the flamenco draw had a rattly sound. So the mixture of the two, you get a nice bass drum and you get the snare. That's basically what a cajon is.
Now, it's because I played a cajon in a flamenco band. So as far as I knew, they were just a flamenco instrument. Interesting to see that they come from Peru as well. Now, I've heard you play, and you play fantastically. I didn't meet you or see you because you were playing cajon.
Yeah.
I saw you because you make cajons as well. Tell us about that.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, I was an area sales manager for a national retail firm, and I had the opportunity, because they're downsizing, to set up my own business. I've been a drummer for 30 years. I love these toys, I think they're absolutely fantastic. But I was going to go to Boran, but when I saw a cajon in action, I thought, oh, you know, that's doable. So we started with some experimentation. I gave 14 drums to local drummers and said, break them. None of them came back, they all liked them. So we started numbering them. This one here is a pre-production one. But we're now up to number 200, so it's going well. Yeah.
So you made or sold 200 of these cajons?
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Various different designs, you know.
So just in the north, in the south, nationwide?
Nationally through mail order. We're looking at sending one to Singapore, which is pricey, and there's a guy in Texas who's wanting one. So we're going to go global. That's where we're heading. But it's just down to getting as many drums made as I possibly can. It's hard work.
So now you can buy a cajon off the shelf that's not being made by a small manufacturer, in the same way you can buy a guitar or any instrument that is made in a huge factory, and you can make that extra effort to go and buy one that's been made in a workshop by a named maker. What's the difference between one that you could buy in any music shop and one that you could buy here that you've made?
I've kind of approached it in a different way for two reasons. One is, obviously, as I said, I was a drummer, one bad drum and you're finished. But mine, what I try and do is stress the carcass as I make it, so that the carcass itself has a note. So the carcass has a note, and if you bend wood, you change its pitch, and it's the same with the batter. The batter is not flat, and neither is the surface it sits on. So I've just come at it from a slightly different angle and trying to just perfect that sound to get a lovely. I'm actually aiming for a really top-end birchy snare sound and a decent, nice bass drum. So I do try and make them slightly differently than the mass market ones.
Now I understand how you can understand and appreciate the difference between a store-bought cajon and a handmade cajon. How did you actually gain the skills to put that into practice? Well,
2 ways in a way. I used to be a site foreman. I worked on building sites, so I've done constructional timber before. But really, finished wood I wasn't never very good at. I used to split when I looked at it. But I learned patience, I think, is one answer. But I've always kind of made things, you know. So I understand the mechanical principle of how they work, how they fit together, and how they should take the weight. But of course, for being a drummer, you're constantly breaking bits off your drum kit anyway. So I've always repaired and fixed my own. So that's probably where it all came from.
So now we've seen the cajons, and I've got to say they do sound beautiful. And for someone who's been playing 2 years, it sounds fantastic. I've got to say I've seen hundreds of people play cajon. It varies from people that are just basically hitting a lump of wood, and you could have just given them a lump of wood and it would have sounded the same. And I've seen some top rate players, and it is top rate. But you put some real thought into what's possible with creating a percussion instrument out of what is basically a box.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk to us and show us some of the other instruments that you've made that maybe you wouldn't call them cajons, but you say you've created new members of the cajon family?
Absolutely, yes. Firstly, I'll start with this little fella here, which there are other wooden cajon bongos on the market, but the first thing I'm looking at is the fact that they're not using the sound hole that's on a cajon, which sort of makes the sound bigger as such, to good effect, which I do with a bongo. That one particularly is obviously just 2 chambers, not much in the way of stressed wood involved. But
so there's 2 separate chambers inside, and
absolutely,
the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas this one, it's due to a fella who as I've mentioned to you before we came on camera, was my endorsee is Jack Carrick, Paul Carrick's son, making mechanics, squeezing tinling. And basically, he was asking for a set of congas. What? So I started having to use the stressed timber idea to better effect. So what you get with this is more of a djembe sound.
So they're very distinct pitch and timbre from the areas where you actually hit. So that the idea of that is you'd have two, if you want a set of congas, instead of having one box with two pitches, each box is its own instrument.
Not necessarily. That was what I was aiming at initially, and I thought, well, that will do. Jack has one of these, but I have actually perfected the conga.
Oh wow! Right, let's have a listen.
And the idea with this fella is there's only one chamber. Yeah. You're resonating the chamber twice for two different drum sounds. You've got. I'm no conga player, by the way. But you're actually getting two sounds from one box. Yeah. It's the way you strain the timber. It's something completely different. And you know, it's kind of an occasional conga, if you like. I mean, the way Jack Carrick plays is he has a small setup with tinling, with a set of chimes and bits and pieces of percussion. So he just wants to add the odd thing in here and there. And
can I just have a little lift of it?
Absolutely.
Have you ever picked up a conga, a nice wooden conga?
Yeah, I mean, a bad set of congas is 200 quid, and take up the boot of the car, and that's stupidly round. Why are they making round, man? You know, it's a stupid shape to get a hold of with a clamp. Square's better. Go square.
I'm sure there's really good musical reasons for making them round, but you can fit like maybe 3 of them in the boot of your cart, whereas you could fit tons of those, and it's the shape of them, and they're actually conical at the bottom. Right. So you've got a nice big conga. I've got a potato model, massive at the top. It's like about that big at the bottom, and the amount of times it's fallen over. I haven't broken my toes, I don't know. And I've also, we'll just talk about your cajon playing as well. I've seen a lot of people with more of a flat-handed style. Yeah. You really kind of use your fingers. Well, is that because you're used to work on a construction site and you've got like big muscles in your fingers, or is that actually a musical choice you've made?
I was told that you play the bass note particularly, and you play a wavement to make it resonate. Because if you flatten it, you've deadened the note straight away. Play a wavement. If you find the right place, the whole drum sings. So I use flats at the top, but also spread the fingers. So. You get all kinds of different notes, but I do sometimes play flat. But it's just, I mean, it's like any drumming. Is there a wrong way to do it? Apart from hitting yourself in the face with it, which is obviously not ideal, but perhaps for a one-off, you never know.
So brilliant. So you've been to lots of festivals, like here selling stuff. Have you been to any of the drum shows or drum conferences showing this stuff off yet?
No, not yet. That's planned for next year. I've been talking to UK trade and industry, or potentially as a delegate going abroad. So we're looking, because I do a lot of VW shows, there's an obvious connection to Germany, so we may go and there's a massive VW show there, so we may go and have a look at that. It's just about making it financially viable in the first place, so we're working on it, I'm getting there.
And your workshop, is it just you in a workshop, have you got anybody actually helping in the manufacture yet?
It's just me, yeah. I mean, my beautiful wife, she does some of the paintwork occasionally.
Some nice paintwork, some nice decorations on here, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing we do is we bond fabric to them, because a paint job, you know, a zany paint job could be anything towards 200 quid. Whereas with that, I don't even charge for it. It's just bonded and it doesn't affect the drum sound-wise in any great way, not noticeably anyway.
I think they look brilliant. I think they sound brilliant. And I've got to say, you go and buy a handmade guitar, you expect to pay upwards of 5 to 10 times more than the cost. These really, you're looking at maybe 20 quid more than something that's been made. I hate to say this, but probably being made in some cases by like a 12-year-old somewhere out in Asia. You're getting a proper quality instrument for not much more, and I hope that people are actually going to start thinking about buying these ones and not the ones they buy for shelf. Yeah. But that's been absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much.
That's an absolute pleasure. Thanks very much.